Ever find yourself wishing you could write poetry? Like really good poetry, the kind that just grabs you.
Hmm.
Well, get this. Today we're diving into the world of AI poetry makers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We're talking about
Okay.
programs that can actually generate poems.
Seriously?
Yeah, seriously. And the sources we're looking at today focus on one AI poetry maker in particular.
Okay.
Apparently, this thing is supposed to be able to help anyone write poetry, like even if you've never written a rhyme in your life.
That's a pretty bold claim. From what I've seen, AI can do some impressive things, but poetry always felt like, a uniquely human thing.
That's what I thought too. But that's what's so fascinating about this deep dive.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So from what I'm reading, this AI poetry maker uses something called natural language processing, or NLP.
NLP, yeah, it's basically how AI processes and understands human language, right?
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
instead of just seeing a jumble of words, it can actually grasp the meaning and the nuances behind them,
And from there it can. What? Like string together those words in a way that forms a poem.
basically. And get this, it can even handle different types of poetry. Like you can tell you want a haiku or a sonnet, even free verse, and it can do it.
Hold on, hold on. So I can tell this thing, write me a sonnet about, I don't know, the feeling of getting a parking ticket, and it'll just do it.
That's what they're saying. And it's not just randomly slapping words together either.
Well, yeah, there's got to be more to it than that.
Right. The sources mention something called deep learning models. Have you heard of those?
Yeah, yeah, in a nutshell, it's like you feed a ton of data into an AI system.
Okay.
And that data, in this case, it would be countless poems, different styles, different eras, all that.
So it's like the AI studies all those poems, learns the patterns, the rhythms, all that.
Exactly. That's the deep learning part. It's like teaching the AI the rules of poetry, by example.
Okay, that makes sense. But how does the AI go from understanding those rules to actually creating something original?
Ah, well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Right. Like where does the creativity actually come in?
It's a bit of a head scratcher. I mean, is it truly creative if it's just following a formula, even a really complex one?
I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's more nuanced than that.
Okay, I'm listening.
Because even with all the data and algorithms, there's still some unknown element at play.
Like what?
Well, think about it. Even if you give two human poets the exact same prompt, say, write a sonnet about a tree, they'd come up with completely different poems, right?
Yeah, for sure. Different voices, different styles.
Exactly. So maybe there's a similar kind of, I don't know, maybe not consciousness, but something akin to individual style that can emerge in AI as well.
Whoa. Okay, that's kind of blowing my mind right now.
Mine too. And that's what makes this whole AI poetry maker thing so fascinating to me. It's not just about the technology, it's about what it says about us, about creativity itself.
Totally. So how about we dig into how this AI poetry maker actually works in practice? Like, let's say I'm a total poetry novice.
Okay, sure.
What are the steps involved in actually getting this AI to write me a poem?
All right, well, imagine this. You sitting at your computer and you open up this AI poetry maker.
Okay, I'm there.
Now you can just hit go and let it spit out something random.
But where's the fun in that?
Exactly. What's really cool is that you get to provide some direction.
Like what?
It could be as simple as a theme, love, loss, nature, whatever's on your mind.
Okay.
Or you can get more specific. Maybe you have certain keywords in mind, or you want the poem to have a particular mood or tone. You're basically guiding the AI, giving it a starting point.
So it's like I'm the director and the AI is the actor.
In a way, yeah, you're setting the stage, providing the inspiration.
This is already blowing my mind and we're just getting started.
Yeah.
So once I've given the AI some direction, what happens next? Does it just magically spit out a poem?
Well, not exactly magically. Remember all that NLP and deep learning stuff we talked about?
Oh, right, right. So it takes my input and then...
And then it gets to work. It uses all that knowledge it's gained from analyzing tons of poetry to craft a poem that aligns with your input.
Okay, I'm hooked. So it's like having a brainstorming partner who can not only rhyme, but can actually structure a whole poem for you.
Exactly. Think of it as a collaborative process. You're providing the creative spark, the initial idea, and the AI is helping you bring that idea to life in the form of a poem.
I like that. So it's not about replacing human creativity, it's about enhancing it.
Precisely. It's giving you tools and a framework to unlock your own poetic potential, even if you never thought you had any.
This is already making me want to give it a try. But before I do, I have to ask.
Yeah.
How good are these AI-generated poems, really? Like, can they actually compare to something written by a human?
That's the big question, isn't it? And honestly, there's no easy answer. It depends on your definition of good.
Okay, fair enough.
But here's the thing. Even if an AI-generated poem doesn't win any literary awards, it can still be valuable.
How so?
Well, for one, it can help us understand the building blocks of poetry better. By analyzing how the AI uses language, we can gain a deeper appreciation for things like rhyme, meter, and imagery.
That's a good point.
And it can also help us overcome writer's block. Sometimes all you need is a starting point, a little nudge in the right direction. The AI can provide that.
So even if the AI isn't writing the next great American novel.
Or the next great American poem.
Right. Even if it's not doing that, it can still be a valuable tool for human poets.
Exactly. It's all about pushing the boundaries of what's possible with language and creativity.
I like that.
And who knows, maybe someday we'll reach a point where AI poetry is indistinguishable from human poetry. Or maybe even surpasses it.
Wow. Now that's a thought. Okay, so we've talked about how this AI poetry maker works, but I'm curious to know more about how it actually understands poetry. I mean, how do you teach a machine about things like rhyme, meter, even the emotional weight of certain words? That's where it gets really interesting for me.
Well, that's where this whole NLP thing gets really wild. It's not just about teaching the AI to recognize, like, a list of rhyming words.
Right, right.
It's about, I don't know, it's almost like teaching it to feel the language.
Okay, now you're really piquing my curiosity.
Uh.
How do you teach a machine to feel?
Well, think about it this way. Every word carries a certain emotional weight, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like happy feels different from joyful, even though they both mean basically the same thing.
Exactly. And the AI, through NLP and all that data it's been fed, it starts to pick up on those subtle differences.
So it's not just analyzing the dictionary definition of a word. It's understanding how that word functions in a larger context, like how it evokes certain emotions or creates a specific mood.
Exactly. It's like, imagine you gave the AI the words sunset versus dusk. They both refer to the same time of day, right? But dusk has this, like, kind of melancholic, maybe even a slightly eerie undertone to it, wouldn't you say?
Totally.
And a good poet, they know how to use those subtle shades of meaning to create a specific effect. And what's fascinating is that these AI poetry makers, they're starting to do the same thing.
That's incredible. But how does the AI know which words to use in which situations? Like, how does it decide when a poem calls for dusk versus sunset or happy versus joyful?
That's where the real magic of deep learning comes in. It's all about pattern recognition on a massive scale.
Okay, explain that.
So remember how we talked about how this AI has been trained on a huge dataset of poems?
Yeah, tons and tons of poems.
Right. So by analyzing all those poems, the AI learns to associate certain words and phrases with specific emotions, themes, even poetic forms.
So it's like if I tell the AI I want a poem about heartbreak, it knows to reach for words like dusk and tears instead of sunshine and rainbows.
Exactly. It's all about understanding the nuances of language and applying them in a way that makes sense within the context of a poem.
Wow, that's seriously impressive.
Yeah.
Okay, so this AI poetry maker can understand my prompts. It can grasp the emotional weight of language. It can even rhyme. But can it actually write a good poem? Like one that truly moves me, makes me think, surprises me. Is that even possible?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And honestly, I think the answer depends on how you define good.
Okay, fair enough.
Because, I mean, what makes a poem good anyway? Is it the technical skill, the use of metaphor and imagery, the emotional depth, or is it something more intangible, something that speaks to our human experience in a way that goes beyond words?
That's a deep question. And I don't know if there's an easy answer.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole conversation about AI poetry so fascinating. It's forcing us to confront our own assumptions about art and creativity.
I like that. So even if an AI-generated poem isn't winning any Pulitzer Prizes anytime soon,
Right.
it can still make us think differently about what poetry can be and who gets to create it.
Precisely. It's pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible and challenging us to reconsider our own definitions of art and creativity.
Mind-blowing stuff. So knowing all this, who do you think this AI poetry maker is really for? Is it just for aspiring poets? Or could it have broader appeal?
You know, I think it could be a really useful tool for a surprisingly wide range of people.
Like who? Give me some examples.
Well, the sources mention creative writers, obviously, but also students, maybe even social media influencers, anyone looking for a fresh way to express themselves.
I see what you mean. It's like even if you don't think of yourself as a poet, this AI poetry maker could help you tap into that creative side.
Right. Or maybe you're someone who just loves to play with language, experiment with different forms of expression. This could be a really fun tool for that.
Totally. It's like having a digital writing partner always there to bounce ideas off of.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe in the process of using this tool, you discover a hidden talent for poetry you never knew you had.
That would be amazing.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about how this AI poetry maker works, its potential benefits, even the philosophical questions it raises about creativity itself. But I think the big question on everyone's mind is, where do we go from here? What's next for AI poetry?
That's the really exciting part. Because this technology is still so new, it has so much room to grow and evolve.
So what? We're going to have AI poets winning Nobel Prizes in literature someday.
Haha. Well, I don't know about that. But honestly, who knows what the future holds? I mean, think about how far AI has come in just the past few
It's
years.
kind of mind-blowing when you think about it like that.
It really is. And as this technology continues to develop, I think we're going to see AI poetry becoming even more sophisticated, more nuanced, more, well, more human.
Okay, now that's a thought. What do you think that means for the future of human creativity?
That's the big question, isn't it? Are we headed for a future where machines replace human artists? Or will AI become a tool that enhances and amplifies human creativity?
It's like we talked about earlier with this AI poetry maker. It's not about replacing poets. It's about giving them new tools to explore their craft.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe this collaboration between humans and AI will lead to entirely new forms of art and expression that we can't even imagine yet.
Now that is a truly exciting thought. Well, that wraps up our deep dive into the world of AI poetry makers. I don't know about you, but my mind is officially blown. It's a brave new world out there, folks, and it seems like AI is poised to play an even bigger role in our creative lives. Who knows what amazing feats of language and technology we'll be exploring on our next deep dive. Until then, keep those creative sparks flying.